Hello, welcome to Maltbox, the non-chill filtered whisky blog. I'm Andy and this is whisky review number 47. It's also the second part of 6 in the Speyside Collection by Gordon Macphail mini-series. So first we looked at the 1972 Linkwood, which is a very intriguing and very challenging dram, you could say. It was a dram of two halves. The nose was fantastic, the palate let it down a little bit. So what we've got today is this, and that is, again in this wonderful frame, a 1967 Longmorn. So again, disclaimer, firstly, once again, thank you very much to Gordon Macphail for providing these samples of the Speyside Collection. However, being provided with these samples does not indicate that they are going to get a positive review. Right, so now that that's out of the way, Longmorn. You could say it's a bit of an underrated distillery, but I'm not sure you can say that anymore. There used to be a 16-year-old official bottling that was kind of on the fringes. It wasn't really as popular, you could say, as some of the more mainstream Speysiders. Unfortunately, they discontinued it recently and they're now putting no age statements out for a ridiculous amount of money. And we're not talking 50 or 60 quid, we're talking a couple of £100 upwards. So the distillery itself is owned by Chivas Brothers, which is Pernod Ricard. This particular bottling, as we know, is part of the Speyside Collection. It has been available for a little longer, as have the other bottles, but basically Gordon Macphail packaged them all up as one collection. It was distilled on the 31st of October 1967. Again, a very, very old whisky. It was then bottled on the 21st of September 2015, which makes it 47 years old. So the Linkwood was 40, we're now at 47. As I say, we are going to go backwards in time. So we started off with the youngest one, if you can describe 40 years old whisky as being young. The 533 bottles of this, and it came from cask 4645, which was a first fill sherry butt. So it spent all that time in a first fill sherry butt. Right, interesting, interessant. Now, the colour, I believe it to be natural colour. I believe it to be. Unfortunately, it doesn't actually say on the big blurb that they've given you. I've not read these tasting notes, by the way. I try and avoid official tasting notes at all costs, and I do recommend that you do the same, because it's a lot of it nowadays is all about pumping your chest out and a lot of bluster and hot air. And picking out flavours that, don't get me wrong, I do sometimes go on a bit of a tangent, but I do try and rein it in a bit. But distilleries and brands nowadays do tend to go a bit off on a bit of a recce. So moving on, they've done that sort of thing at the bottom of this as well, just to highlight the sort of age and the period that it comes from. So key moments in history: 1967. The first Super Bowl is played between the Green Bay Packers and Kansas City Chiefs. For all you American watchers out there, firstly, thanks for tuning in. Secondly, you probably get that reference more than I do. I'm a Manchester United fan of proper football, where they use their feet. Dr. Christian N. Bernard performs the world's first heart transplant. It's a pretty big deal. And the first ATM is put in service at Barclays in London. Right, and as we know, there's one on every street corner now. So that's the whisky. So as I mentioned, I do believe this is natural colour. If that is incorrect, I do apologise. I have tried to find out, but unfortunately my search came to nothing. In terms of colour, let's see, Paul Scholes' scalp on the subject of football. So on the nose, I think this is echoes of the Linkwood. Very, 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 a lot going on. Lots going on. What you could describe as a complex nose. Initially, I'm getting this sort of like rubber note, and it's not unpleasant though. Sort of think like a new bike tyre or something like that. And then yeah, behind that there's there's sort of a tart apple pie. It's like flitting between them. Then you've got, it's kind of like a tangy, in line with that sort of tangy apple, sort of tangy astringent note almost. Which sounds unpleasant, but it's not. It's addictive. You've then got kind of, it's very sweet. It is very sweet. You've kind of got that oriental stickiness that I mentioned in the Linkwood review, but there's a lot of honey there. So think of like honey glazed ribs. You've also got, just trying, in fact I'll go back, just to make sure. Yeah, vanilla. These are very strange mixtures, if you will, from a sherry cask, particularly one that's been in there for that long. And I know it does seem a bit conflicting and contradictory to sort of flip between notes like rubber and things like that, and like an intense sweetness, and then mention things like tart apple, and then go back to vanilla. It's almost like what you might expect from a bourbon cask to be saying those sorts of things, but it is here. Getting some nice legs on the glass, nice and thick. Getting toffee now, and also old books. If you've ever been to a proper old bookshop, there's second-hand books, or if you've got a shelf of books of your own, you'll get this kind of really nice dry, papery old book note when you open them to read. There's also sort of like a caramelised pecan, however it's pronounced, those nuts, sort of flavour in there, as well as licorice. I'm not a big fan of licorice, so I do sort of recognise it quite well when it stands out, because I try and avoid it at all costs. But it does add this sort of like nice richness. It does sort of like give it another layer. Again, I'd just like to stress, this is a dram that you could spend hours picking apart. I don't want to take my nose out of it, but I appreciate I've only got about 20 minutes of filming time on my my SD card. So unfortunately it's probably not getting the sort of attention it deserves, but I will try my best. Moving on from that, milk chocolate, marzipan. Sort of like an almondy essence flavour in there, so like, as I say, the marzipan in there. And this is a note that is probably overused when it comes to whiskey, particularly when you look at other blogs, other reviews, official tasting notes, buttered toast. Generally you will hear people say on granary bread, but I don't think it really makes a hell of a lot of difference. Toast is toast. But fair enough, on this I am getting that. It is a very buttery note in there, very silky, a sort of dairy-ish, kind of in line with that milk chocolate. And you do have sort of like a warm, toasty sort of flavour in there. You might even say like buttered crumpets, particularly if you live over here. They are somewhat a bit of a British delicacy, I think, although you can get them across the world. That licorice is really standing out for me now, along with that apple. But it's what you, I mean, it really is what you could describe a medley of a nose. It is so much going on. It's flitting between all these different flavours and all these different sort of layers. I am going to add water to it after, and I think that's really going to be quite interesting to see what it does to it. Bearing in mind this is the first time that I've tried this on camera, so you might find that, yeah, some of the things that I say sound a bit daft. If you've been around watching the blog for a few months, you might already recognise that that is a common theme. So apologies in advance. Just taking my nose out there, the last sort of thing that I've got in addition to what I've already mentioned, sort of like a cinnamon flavour, cinnamon note. I do mention cinnamon quite a lot in my reviews, I appreciate that. it's just something that I do pick out quite often. Each to their own, I suppose. But I am getting it on this particular whisky. So far, good. Very good. Right, onto the palate. I'm going to sit back for this. I'm just going to take it all in. Right. Holy shit. Right, that is really sweet. Really sweet. A lot of honey. Really thick, dark honey. Mouthfeel, surprisingly thin actually. I'm a little bit disappointed with how thin the mouthfeel is. Bottle at 43%. I have not mentioned that, so I do apologise. I'm not too sure if keeping it at 46 would have made much difference, to be honest with you. As I say, very sweet, but then immediately there's sort of a transition to sort of like spice and spices. Again, going back to the spice cupboard, I'm getting cinnamon again. Oh yes, I'm getting nutmeg. I'm also getting a tiny, tiny little bit of cardamom pods. I'm sure I mentioned this on the Longmorn review. Oh, this is a Longmorn review. The Linkwood review. Like spice mulled wine, I'm sure I did. And again, it's happening here. Sort of like a sweet, red, winey richness, and then you've got this kind of in the background, the spices that go with it. I think star anise, orange peel as well. Really interesting, really interesting. Right, I'm really enjoying this. We're now getting pepper, cracked black peppercorns. I'm getting citrus. I mentioned the orange peel. Think lemon or lime. A very sort of tangy citrus peel. Ginger beer, Jamaica ginger beer, proper cloudy ginger beer. Really nice fieriness to it. I'm still enjoying that. I do like a ginger beer, to be fair. Moving on from that, just before the finish starts, and I will get onto the finish in a minute, there's sort of like an apricot preserve jam kind of flavour there. So it is sweet, but there is like a fruity element to it, and I would sort of pinpoint it as more of an apricot-y, peachy kind of flavour than a berry. You know, like your red berries, they do tend to stand out. Again, marzipan. I know I mentioned that on the nose, the sort of almondy essence there, and then again towards the finish, it becomes very sweet. It sort of turns itself back around, and you're getting like icing sugar, like very, very kind of like light, syrupy sweetness. I realise that I've been doing a lot on my hands today. I'm just trying to, you know, Paul Daniels things, just magic things up out of nowhere. And that does sort of like carry it into the finish. The finish is sort of short to medium length, I'd say. I'm still feeling a bit of heat in my throat. It's sweet, as I mentioned, it is quite warm. There's a little bit of spice in there. And I think the only thing that does let it down, and I say short to medium, I'd say it's more of the former. It is quite short. The only thing that's sort of lingering in terms of experience rather than flavour is that heat there in my throat. Whew. Overall, very interesting. Very interesting. Got a little bit left. Just pop a touch more in. Just that's all it'll need. Because all I'm going to do is I'm going to put, for about that amount, bottle 43, I'm going to put half teaspoon of water in it. Doesn't need more than that. Well, it shouldn't need any more than that, we'll soon see. The golden rule being, you can add more but you can't take away. So if you put too much in, it's too late. So while that's doing its thing with the water, price. Now I mentioned previously that the Speyside Collection retails at £10,500, which is, I'm going to say, it's a ridiculous amount of money for whiskey. I am never going to be able to buy something like that in my lifetime. However, I can see the sort of affinity and attractiveness for certain buyers and certain markets for that sort of price. In this particular instance, this whiskey on its own, so if you went to a shop to find this, you can still get it in certain retailers, and you can still find it online at a place like the Whisky Exchange, for example. It would set you back by about 550 to 600 quid. Bearing in mind what you might define as sort of the normal amount that I spend on whiskey, say a bottle of whiskey, I would spend about 50 quid on it, maybe. I try to spend less. Sometimes I have spent a bit more, but I've never spent more than, say, I think the most I've ever spent on one whiskey is 120 quid, and that was a very, very unusual purchase for me, shall we say. 550 to 600 quid, however, is slightly out of my price range, as I'm sure it is for a lot of people. So 43%, I believe it is natural colour, as I mentioned before. Chill filtration, unfortunately, I'm not too sure. I did try to find that out as well, but I will update this as I did with the Linkwood review with a comment on the YouTube video. Now, we've had a bit of water in there, it's had a little bit of time to open up. Stick it right in there, didn't I? Nearly I butted my glass. Again, it's very sweet with water. Unfortunately, the complexity has completely gone, in my opinion. I am still getting a little bit of apple in there, a little bit of vanilla, and actually a tiny, tiny hint of exotic fruit, such as pineapple. But it's suddenly gone from something very three-dimensional to something very one-dimensional, in my opinion. I know that's not a very nice thing to say, but as I say, it's a non-chill filtered whiskey blog. If it's not good, I will say it's not good, whether it's a free sample or not. And in my opinion already, I think it has really kind of smothered it a little bit, the water. And I know I put what appear to be 2 spoons in, but these are very strange spoons. You don't get much water in, to be honest with you, so I put what was probably 2/4 in, making the half. So I have only put about half a teaspoon, so I've just got water everywhere. So that is actually a little bit surprising. The only other thing I sort of picked out then, just so I went back to it, was kind of like crunchy bars or cinder toffee, which is sort of like a crunchy toffee confectionery thing. If you don't know, I'm sure you all know what a crunchy bar is. Oh, and that lemon's back. If you've seen some of my other reviews and I go on a rant about this really strong lemon flavour, I'm getting it here, it's back, it hath returned. Lemon bathroom cleaner, oh, for love of God, go away! Why? You must think I'm nuts. It's there, honestly, it's there. Smell it. Right, let's try the palate now. Sorry, I'm trying to sit up in my chair a little bit. I don't know where my head's cut off because I'm using an SLR now to record these reviews to try and up the sound quality a little bit. Please do comment if you prefer me to switch back to my old camera, and I will gladly do so. Sweet, honey still there, cinnamon, fruit salad sweet. That exotic fruit is really coming through now. Pineapple, mango chunks, dried coconut, raisins. We're now switching back to the traditional sherry notes. Coffee, that milk chocolate that I mentioned on the nose without water. And overall, it's quite an interesting change. These are flavours that you'd see from potentially younger whiskies. rather than a sherry cask that's, or a whiskey, sorry, should I say, it's been sat in a sherry cask for 47 years. That's pretty much a testament to Gordon Macphail's cask management and cask selection, that they can actually pick out these bottles that have such variety. I mean, these are quite youthful flavours to have in such an old whiskey. Really very interesting indeed. The finish, still warm, still a little bit sweet. There's a little bit of cinnamon in there, which is different to what it was like without water. And that sort of tops it off nicely, really, to be honest. It sees itself out. In terms of scores, I am going to give this whiskey 90 out of 100. 90 out of 100, I think that's fair. It's a really, really nice nose. The palate is really engaging as well. Unfortunately, sort of a bit of a recurring theme here, but I think water let it down a little bit, particularly on the nose. On the palate, it did actually carry through some new characteristics, quite interesting, but I think the nose really sort of let it down with a bit of water in it. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. See you soon.